Hi, I'm Meryl Key, and this is What is Happening and Why Astrology, where we look at the big picture transits, the moon phases, and all the aspects going on for the month. If you want astro readings on your specific sign, have a look at my AstroDice forecast put out at the beginning of each month. And if you'd like to help my algorithm, remember to give me a like, a follow, a share, subscribe, or a comment. It really helps, and I do appreciate your support. Here's what is happening and why astrology for October 2023. Well, we walk into the month of October, right on the heels of Venus square Uranus. And this is the last of that whole Venus retrograde batch that had Venus in Leo going backwards and forwards in the crosshairs of the big planets of Jupiter and Uranus. This Venus sequence really sets the tone for the month, and it peaks with an eclipse on the 15th, brushing out all the loose bits of rubbish and setting you on a new path. Let's go back and have a look at this sequence. You might have had a hint of things to come around the end of March when Venus and Uranus began this cycle. Venus represents relationships of all kinds, including your relationship with money and your own self-worth. If you have any planet in your birth chart between 15 degrees and about 23 degrees, chances are you were caught up in this sequence, especially if those planets were in fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio and Aquarius. By June the 6th, Venus had moved into Leo, where it would stay for 4 months, setting off the tripwires with Jupiter and Uranus. The first square was on June the 11th, between Venus and Jupiter. This is a big clash of energies, but no one was getting what they wanted. It's possible there was a very loud blowout, it might have been quite public, and it might have been excessive. It could do with relationships, a financial blowout. It could have been about a clash of values. On July the 2nd, Venus squared off against Uranus. And what came up around that second week of June really comes to a head. Squares are when planets are 90 degrees away from each other. And it's the kind of aspect that can hit you sideways. You don't see it coming. Squares can put obstacles in your path and really set up a clash. On the 23rd of July, Venus turned retrograde at 28 degrees in Leo, and there was a shift in the energy, pulling everything inwards. And that opened up a really tough patch in August. Undercurrents, obstruction, shattering and fragmentation of what you thought was set in concrete. Between August the 8th to the 12th, Venus retrograde was square Uranus. The 22nd to the 24th of August, Venus retrograde squared Jupiter. Then on the 29th, Uranus turned retrograde at 23 degrees. By early September, the 4th and the 5th, Venus turned direct, Jupiter turned retrograde. A couple of weeks later, here we are, the 17th of September, and Venus is now squared Jupiter. So Venus is advancing forward while Jupiter's turned into reflection and reconsidering. Finally, September the 30th, we can close this whole sequence. Venus moving forward was square Uranus, and this little clash, Venus was much more prepared. The interaction there at the end of September can bring about a closure and recognition. Uranus retrograde is able to reason differently. It might be less eruptive, and it might have better insight. If it's not a completion of that conflict, there's an understanding and a letting go and a letting be. From October the 9th, Venus will move forward into Virgo, away from the dramas and into more practical matters and peace. That final square between Uranus and Venus at the end of September ripples out its effect over all of October, with a bunch of planets in Libra, who Venus rules, moving as a group to clean out the debris before a solar eclipse mid-month opens a whole new direction. This lump of planetary action in Libra includes Pallas, the South Node, Mars, the Sun, and eventually Mercury will be in there too. And one by one, they're all going to sit opposite and oppose Chiron and pass over the South Node, which will also oppose the North Node. And then a few days later, they're all going to start to move up and make that 90-degree angle with Pluto, a square, which sets up that tension. And in this case, a clearing out. Chiron is the shaman who reveals your deepest wounds so that you can journey on your soul path. And Pluto is the god of the underworld who holds your secrets, your psychological strength and insight, and also the power of the underworld to call death, endings, rebirth and regeneration. This means healing, it means integrating and purging out old relationship patterns, because you're ready to get ahead of it now. In tarot, this could be the Eight of Cups, walking away from something that you've put a lot of love into, but the cups of love aren't sustaining you anymore, and it's time to move on. This card to me is a card of wisdom, a card of strength, a card of knowing when to retreat and when to surrender, and when to let it go. Here's how it plays out. On October 2nd to the 6th, Mars will pass over the South Node. And this puts something in action, a purge or a decision. Mars on the South Node also raises the question of where you've exhausted your own strength to provide for others. The defences are down with this transit and everything's left a bit open. At the same time, Neptune is quincunx Mars in the South Node. And with that guard down, this puts a bit of a risk of poisons, toxins and infections. And this can be in a psychic and environmental sense as well as in a physical sense. Neptune is dissolving a mask, and Chiron, not far from the North Node, is integrating awareness and acceptance as that mask comes off. Ultimately, this dissolving might take a few months, and that could be around the time Chiron and the North Node get exact, which is in February next year. And in that dissolving and integrating, you should be on a path of finding your own unique beauty and wisdom along the way. October the 6th, Mercury moves into Libra, and it's happy to be there. There's a few weeks here of being chatty and social. On the 9th, Venus moves into Virgo, finally after 4 months out of Leo. And on the same day, Mars squares off against Pluto. They're both at 27 degrees. Mars squaring Pluto only lasts for a couple of days, but this is definitely not the time to be unloading all your criticisms and frustrations and bringing out your list of grievances without due cause, because things can really blow up in a very undignified row about who is right. Pluto and Mars are both about war, but justice doesn't always prevail when you're up against Pluto. Pluto's not interested in justice, it's interested in power, and you might be unconsciously looking for a drama to project your own fears and frustrations elsewhere. On October the 11th, the Sun has moved up to come opposite Chiron, and the same day, Pluto turns station direct. This creates a super slow, deep, psychological whirlpool, turning a mirror back on yourself. If there's been a power play, the penny is dropping about what's been going on behind the scenes. Mars moves into Scorpio on the 12th of October, and we could almost say let the games begin. Mars is at home in Scorpio. It's strategic, it's well defended, and it's able to win all its battles with relentless strength. But emotional manipulation is part of its ammo, and with the eclipse in a few days, more could be revealed. So for now, keep your head down and stay stum about your vulnerabilities. On the 15th, we come up to that new moon in Libra, 21 degrees, with a solar eclipse. The path of that eclipse is going to be visible all over North, Central, and South America. So it's really going to impact on this continent and this part of the world. The eclipse is in Libra, and it has you looking at relationships differently, through a different lens, through the shadows. And the build-up with that Venus sequence coming in over the last 4 months has really opened your eyes to what needs to change. Mercury has nestled right into that new moon and the eclipse, and it's sitting across from Chiron in the North Node. So there's an energy that's flipping perspectives on communication, contacts, ideas, movement, transport, connections, Mercury stuff. Even in your relationship with siblings. And with Chiron there, it's bringing it all to a turning point of poignant understanding. There might be an important or even a painful conversation that requires acceptance from a bigger, higher-minded part of yourself. There's a lot of power here to heal an old wound through words and communication, and it could bring about a breakthrough, maybe with a therapist or a mentor or a family member. There's some alchemy in the way we're using words and actions over this eclipse period. In Australia, the eclipse coincides with the referendum to include Indigenous people in our Constitution. It's been such a tricky and uncomfortable debate for Australians to have, and there's a core of Australia that is very conservative and a history of systemic institutionalised racism. The eclipse is really giving Australians an opportunity to heal that past and clear the karma. So we're calling all the spirit guides and helpers, all the angels and archangels, all the beings of light, to bring forward a yes vote for Australia, its Indigenous population, and attempt to heal some of the damage that colonisation did to them. Also in aspect with this solar eclipse, we have Ceres here in Scorpio, exactly opposite to Jupiter. This is the Earth Mother looking across at the Sky Father, negotiating the balance of nurturing, provision and supply, and settling on a natural order. This is a symbol of abundance and protection, but if the balance between them has been wildly off, or the cycles are out of time, there could be a rush of mood from both planets affecting the weather, crops and food supply. On a personal level, this could be about budgets and the cost of living, and interest rates adjusting to meet new demands, possibly falling. On a global level, Ceres opposite Jupiter can make weather events big. It can call for natural justice, and it can also call for a shift in constitutional justice. So I'm really hoping the astrology is good for that yes vote in Australia. If all goes well, and you've cleared out your psychological baggage and projections during this Venus sequence, the eclipse should shake the broken glass out of your hair and give you a new sense of clarity and determination. Not long after, on the 22nd, Venus in Virgo comes to trine Jupiter in Taurus. And this has got to be the luckiest day of the month. Venus and Jupiter, when they come together in the right way, grant gifts, they share the love, they brighten up a bad day, and they boost your confidence. And earth signs, Virgo, Cap, and Taurus, you're going to see the best of it. If you're waiting around for the right moment to make an announcement or to launch something, October 22 could be a really good choice. The next day, on the 23rd, Mercury moves into Scorpio. And this brings concise depth to communication and mental processing. The other thing it brings is all of these main planets are now in feminine signs of earth or water. That shift towards feminine energy allows emotions to share and settle. An overall shift from boxing things in to opening things up in an organic, flexible and collaborative co-creation. Sounds great, especially since we've just dragged through several months of judgy, reactive triggers. On October the 29th, the moon has moved all the way around to Taurus, opposite the sun in Scorpio. This makes it a full moon in Taurus. And for us in the southern hemisphere, it's Beltane, the sexy spring festival where nature is in full bloom and the Taurus moon plugs into sensuality and pleasure seeking. With this full moon, Jupiter is opposite Mars and Mercury. There's Mars, there's Mercury. And in all that sexy time, this is really buzzing passion and connection like laser beams. And in case you missed the love, Juno, the queen of the heavens, marriage and commitment, is in a harmonious aspect to her husband Jupiter. This is an auspicious and positive vibe for relationships. And what's been ruffled and tested and twisted over the past 4 months, you can really feel it straightening out and heading in the right direction. And what's more, this full moon has no squares. There are no side swipes with it. The skies are clearing. In the northern hemisphere, you've got the opposite seasonal turning point. You're heading into dark winter, your seasonal death phase, Samhain, honouring those who've passed, the ancestors, and letting the spirits from the other worlds have a moment to play on Earth. That full moon on the 29th should open up some hope, some new light in the darkness, and the inner resources to guide you towards nourishment, growth, and rebirth. There's quite a twist in the energy in October, starting from very tumultuous and sorting out and sifting to that breath of fresh air. Take a big gulp and reset yourself. The view from where you are at the end of October is going to be very different from where you were at the beginning. I'm Meryl Key, and this is my mystery school. Check out the other videos on my channel, or you can find me on Instagram at my_mystery school, or on my website www.merylkey.com. Thanks for watching.